But they had the numbers. They could charge at him simultaneously and wear him out. Once his internal energy was depleted, they could take him down. The Nephrite Sun is the best. You should take the lead. I think you Sky Cranes are more valiant. You're all so strong that each of you can take on 100 men. Don't Deathly Hurricane often boast about their powers? They should go ahead and test them. Wait, you combat priests are trained to use the adamantine shield. You should lead the way. We are priests. We do not take lives. Dustin's sword had planted a seed of fear in all of them. They were all hesitant to challenge him and even began pushing others to go ahead first. But in the end, no one dared to step forward. Dustin stood on the stage with his sword in hand. He alone was enough to intimidate all the other martial artists. They all stood around hesitantly, not daring to be the first ones to make a move. But such a reaction from them angered Woody to no end. Hey, what are you all afraid of? Powerful as he may be, he's just one person. If you all attacked at once, you can easily slash him into pieces. Seeing that he failed to stir a reaction among them, Woody turned his attention to the leaders of the various guilds. He started calling them out one by one: Sir Crane, Sir Williams, Father Orson, Sir Rosen, and Sir Bilmit. As leaders of the martial arts scene, you should stand up and be role models for the rest. Lead your disciples and get rid of the criminal. When they heard what Woody said, Theodore and the rest looked around awkwardly. They could hype others up and support the martial arts union verbally, but they'd think twice about putting their lives on the line and fighting Dustin. He had, after all, been capable of killing Ronald. Who was to say he wouldn't be a threat to them too? If they took things too far, they might even lose their lives. So, things were awkward as they stood. The regular martial artists were no threat to Dustin. Meanwhile, the experts treasured their lives too much to lead the battle. For a moment, things came to a standstill. What a disorderly bunch. Woody was beyond frustrated. All these martial artists were undisciplined and unreliable. Had it been the enforcement team from the Martial Arts Union, they'd have carried out his orders without any hesitation. As things stood, the only way out of their predicament was for him to personally take action. At that thought, a cold gleam appeared in Woody's eyes. He knocked the arrow on the bow and drew the bowstring. The arrowhead made of dark steel was aimed straight at Dustin's heart. The bow creaked as the bowstring was drawn taut. The sound made one's scalp crawl. That was a custom-made bow that weighed 10,000 pounds. Regular martial artists would not be able to pull the bowstring. Not even if they used both their hands and feet and put in every ounce of their energy. But Woody had drawn the bowstring so tight that the bow arched into a crescent shape. It was clear just how tremendous his strength was. When Woody had drawn the bowstring as far as it could go, he released his hold on the arrow. It shot out like a bullet. The arrow launched toward Dustin's chest with a momentum that could split the earth. The speed was so unbelievably fast that the arrow was nothing but a blur at best. What a powerful shot! All the expert martial artists were astonished by what they saw. None of them had expected such strength from Woody. It was no exaggeration to say that in an assault, this shot could kill a strong grandmaster. As expected of a member of the Martial Arts Union, his skills were out of this world. Just as the arrow was about to hit its target, a figure descended from the sky. The person landed right in front of Dustin, standing between him and the arrow. Then, he effortlessly pinched Woody's arrow between his fingers. Due to the force of the impact, the arrow's tail quivered wildly. It resembled the tail of a fish swimming against the currents. But as it was trapped between the person's fingers, the arrow remained where it was no matter how hard it shook. Decent shooting skills. Slightly lacking in strength, though. The person who had caught the arrow was a disheveled old man. He was crippled and blind in one eye and carried a hip flask around his waist. He was unkempt and scruffy, looking like a beggar. What? Woody's eyes twitched as an expression of bewilderment came over him. He had put every bit of his energy into that shot. Besides, the tip of the arrow was made of dark steel and was exceptionally sharp. Not even someone who had reached Grandmaster level dared to brave such a shot. Never in his dreams had he ever expected a full-forced shot from him to be intercepted. And with just 2 fingers, at that, Who the hell was that old man? And how could he be so powerful? Woody was not the only one surprised. Even Theodore and all the other martial artists present were shocked by what the one-eyed old man did. Several of them were grandmasters with extraordinarily heightened senses. Nothing that went on around them went by undetected. However, none of them noticed the old man until he appeared before their eyes. It was beguiling indeed, and the most terrifying part was that they did not sense the slightest energy waves coming from him. He looked just like any other old man. But how could an ordinary old man intercept Woody's shot? That was clearly impossible. There was only one possibility as to why they could not sense his powers. And that was because the old man's powers were way beyond theirs. Who are you? How dare you meddle in the affairs of the Martial Arts Union? Woody's brow was knitted as he roared. It was bad enough for them to have to deal with Dustin. It would only get increasingly difficult for them to deal with this elite expert who just popped up out of nowhere. What's so great about the Martial Arts Union? Back when I left, none of you from the Martial Arts Union had been able to stop me, the old man drawled as he picked his nose. How dare you? Woody shot him a glare. Who sent you, you loony old geezer? How dare you speak so boastfully? Do you have a death wish? Boastful? The old man raised a brow as he picked out a dark piece of booger from his nose. Then, he flicked it at Woody. The piece of booger shot through a 100-yard distance and landed on Woody like a bullet. With a loud explosion, Woody felt like he had been hit by a train. He was sent flying over 10 yards away before he fell heavily to the ground like a sack of potatoes. Blood spilled out from his nose and his mouth. He shrieked in pain. What? An uproar broke out among the onlookers. One had to be at least a grandmaster to be appointed as the leader of the Martial Arts Union. But the old man had heavily wounded a grandmaster with just his booger. How unbelievable. Where did such a monster come from? Hey, brat, not even the head of the union, Caesar Fent, dares speak to me like that. Who the hell do you think you are? The old man smiled menacingly. Woody pounded on his chest as he coughed violently. There was an expression of incredulous fear on his face. You. Who are you? A piece of the old man's booger nearly took his life. How ridiculous. And most importantly, he did not fear the Martial Arts Union at all. He even addressed the head of the union by name. If there was anything that Woody was sure of, it was that this old man wasn't an ordinary old man. Listen up, I go by the name Dobson Mania, the old man announced as he continued picking his nose. Dobson Mania? Woody was taken aback when he heard the name. Then, his expression changed soon after. He looked terrified, and there was a tremble in his voice. You can't be the ultimate grandmaster who spread chaos in Oakvale back then, can you? You're the drunken maniac. Dobson Mania was known as the Tipsy Warrior. And because of how much he loved his alcohol, he was also called the Drunken Maniac. A decade ago, an unexpected event occurred in the city of Ailka, in Oakvale. That night, every member of the Martial Arts Union was dispatched. Caesar Fent had personally led all of them to capture several criminals. The Drunken Maniac had been one of them. Those from the Martial Arts Union had expected an easy fight. They thought they could complete their mission breezily. However, the moment they engaged in battle, they realized just how sorely wrong they had been. The Union had suffered a terrible defeat in that battle. Caesar was severely wounded, and the vice-head had lost his life. All the elders, guardians, and the leaders were either heavily injured or killed. That was the only defeat the Martial Arts Union had ever experienced since its founding. It also became a taboo that was never brought up ever again.